Hello and welcome to my review of New Japan Pro Wrestling's New Beginning in Sapporo, I believe it's pronounced. I would read it Sapporo, but the commentators seem to be saying Sapporo. I'll take their word for it. This was a 2-day event that took place on the 1st of February and the 2nd of February. I would say Saturday and yesterday, but I'm not entirely sure this video is going to be up on Monday. It might well be Tuesday when you're watching this. Apologies if so for the day's delay, but it's just how things work out sometimes. And we're just going to jump right into it. Let's just jump right into it with day one, which was on Saturday the 1st of February. And that show kicked off with El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori. I'm sorry if I get some names a little bit janky, by the way. I'm still getting used to watching New Japan, taking on Tiger Mask and Yuya Uemura, I believe, who's a young lion who's kind of the protege of Tiger Mask, from what the commentators were saying. Okay, so this match, it was an interesting story. It was telling. It was basically Tiger Mask putting a lot of the match on Uemura, obviously as part of his conditioning and his training to be ready to become not a young lion. The Bullet Club team had some interesting strategies and tactics and moves and stuff that I found entertaining. At one point, El Phantasmo, did like a frog splash off the top, but instead of actually landing it as a splash, he landed on his feet and then did like a back rake to, I think it was to Uemura, who Ishimori was holding in like a front face lock, so it was like a double team, but it was just funny how he made like the big motion of like the frog splash just to do like a rake. It was called the frog rake, which I thought was fun. Also, when they have them upside down in the corner and they run in and jump, but then instead of like delivering like a drop kick to the face or something, like in a Tree of Woe, upside down in the corner, is what I mean. But instead of like doing a drop kick to the face, something they just land in front of them and then step up on the ropes and then step on the groin and just stand there. Really good fun. I like their approach to sort of false high flying kind of stuff. You know, so instead of actually doing the high-flying stuff that the fans love, they sort of do fake versions just to antagonise the fans. Pretty fun. It was a good moment where I think Uemura got tagged in, if I remember rightly, and ran over and knocked Ishimori off the apron, but was a bit over-enthusiastic with it and ended up sort of hung up on the top rope and had to drop onto the apron to then get back into the ring. It was pretty fun. It was an alright match. It was obviously just a story it was designed to tell. Obviously the young lion will lose in the end. That's kind of what they're there for. They gain experience, look good by putting up a good fight, but generally will lose most of the matches. While the young lions. Ishimori got the win with a submission. It was like a nice roll through yes lock. They actually called it the yes lock as well, on which I'm surprised. I'd have thought they'd use like a more technical sounding name. What is it Daniel Bryan calls it when he's being a heel? The label lock. Maybe they could have gone with that. Maybe they could have had like, I don't know, just a different name that I've not heard before. I was just surprised to hear it called the yes lock, to be honest. But yeah, it kind of rolled through into it in a really nice way and made Uemura tap out. But it looked good in defeat. It was a rematch, I believe, from a few months ago, and the commentators made a big deal over the fact that Uemura was sort of learning. Can't remember the exact spot now because I watched a lot of wrestling since it. But he sort of remembered the previous finish and dodged that the way he lost last time in the same tag match. So that's kind of like just a little bit of in-ring storytelling, basically, is, you know, him learning from the past mistakes but losing a different way. You know, the more experienced wrestlers knowing how to still pull out the win. After the match, Uemura wanted to keep going, but Tiger Mask was kind of like dragging him away, which I thought was a good little touch, and actually played into night 2, which I didn't realise it was going to at the time, but yeah, it was quite good. And then just as they were leaving the ring, Bullet Club that is, ELP took a cheap shot to one of the young lions at ringside, who I then found out was going to be his opponent the next night, so good little continuity. And they're fighting a lot of young lions at the moment. I'm not sure entirely why. I don't know if there's a separate story there. But either way. So yeah, good opening tag team match. The next match was... Right, here we go. Manabu Nakanishi, who is on his retirement tour, I believe. I've never personally heard the name. Seems to have a lot of respect from the commentators, from the crowd. Is obviously a big deal in Japan. I've personally never heard the name. But obviously I could derive from just the reaction alone that he's very well respected over there. So yeah, Nakanishi, Yota Tsuji, who's another young lion, but I've seen him before. He's like a really big young lion. They've clearly got big hopes for him. I can tell by how he's booked within his matches. And Hiroyoshi Tenzan, I think I saw him at Wrestle Kingdom. I think I know that name, but no, not well. Against Toa Hanare, Tamawaki Honma, and Togi Makabe, who I've seen all of these either at New Year's Dash or Wrestle Kingdom this year, but before that I probably didn't know any of these names. Yeah, there was a fun little triple submission spot in this 6-man tag. So basically, the legal man gets the other legal man in a submission. I believe this was Tsuji putting on a Boston Crab. Can't remember which one too. Probably Hanare, actually. Just educated guess. Then his partners come in to try and break it up, but then the Tsuji's partners come in to sort of grab them and ended up with an Anaconda Vice and a Torture Rack going on. I know Nakanishi was doing the Torture Rack, so that means Tenzan was doing the Anaconda Vice. Not sure who to who, but it was a fun little spot. Obviously, the referee just pays attention to the legal man. I think in American wrestling, there's like this tendency when they've got a double submission on or a double pin that the referee acknowledges both. And it's like, well, no, it shouldn't matter if that guy taps. He's not legal. It shouldn't matter if that guy gets pinned. He's not legal. So I like that the referee focused just on the legal men, the legal submission hold, if you like, in the ring. The finish came when Hanare... I've written Tenare for some reason there. Toa Hanare, Tenare is new name. I've rechristened someone. No, Hanare picked up the win over Tsuji. Obviously, Young Lion picks up the loss with a rock bottom. Also, I noticed Nakanishi technically picked up the loss on his retirement tour, which is generally the way, but not actually taking the loss himself because he had a Young Lion to do that for him. But it was basically a slightly more impactful looking rock bottom that Hanare hit Tsuji with, and it was a decent 6-man tag. I'm still getting used to all these multi-man tags being a big part of the shows when I'm watching Japanese wrestling. It's a bit alien to me. I know it happens on Raw and SmackDown quite a bit, but not so much on what I perceive to be big events, which I'm not sure if I'm just getting the wrong perception, and this was just like an equivalent of a Raw or SmackDown. I know the one on the 9th in Osaka, I think it's in, is being pitched as the really big one with the world title match and what have you. So maybe these are just sort of Raw and SmackDown, and I should be a little bit more open to the multi-man tag thing. Right, up next we had an 8-man tag, and it was Will Ospreay, Yoan Sho, and I don't know how to say his first name, Ryusuke, I'm not sure, but Taguchi, I can say that, against Zack Sabre Jr., El Desperado, Doki, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, who El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru are like the junior heavyweight tag team of Suzuki-gun. Zack Sabre Jr. is the British heavyweight champion, and then Yoan Sho are like the junior heavyweight tag team champions, and Will Ospreay is Zack Sabre's challenger on night 2. So there's a lot of sort of crossover in stories or potential upcoming stories in this match. So what they tend to do is they'll tend to put together like groups of people that all have, you know, from within the same faction that have issues with a load of other people from within the same faction and make it into multi-man matches to build to these singles matches. It's basically their way of doing things without having loads of promo time, essentially. What Raw and SmackDown use on promo time, Japan uses on multi-man tag matches. So, yeah, there was a fun spot fairly early on. Taguchi is wearing a captain's armband, and while Rocky Romero is in America, the sort of that he's covering as like their coach, if you like, or captain, with Yoan Sho. And there was a fun point where he was directing traffic and they were doing like triple corner attacks. They had one of the opponents, I can't remember which one, maybe Desperado, in the corner, and they were all just taking turns running in and hitting him. But then the King of Bum style, he's called, Taguchi, tried doing like standing on the rope and have in the opposite corner and having them fire the opponent into his bum, but that got reversed, and I can't remember which one, but Yoan Sho got thrown into his bum instead, which is obviously disastrous when you find the King of Bum style. He's obviously got the world's hardest bum. Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr., obviously with them having their little issue leading into the title match and fighting in the crowd, all over the place. It's a really interesting clash of styles having someone so, and I don't want to call Zack Sabre Jr. not athletic, but when I mean athletic, I mean like gymnastic, with someone as athletic as Ospreay. And then you've got Zack Sabre Jr., who's a much more grounded, technical wrestler. It's a really interesting clash of styles, and I noted that down because at the time I was really looking forward to the singles match between them the next night. So yeah, I was looking forward to that. Doki tried using like a weird curvy pipe that I assume is like a trademark of him. I don't think I've seen Doki before this year. So he was pretty new to me. But Taguchi reversed it into a front suplex, I believe, or it might have been a separate incident, but he hit the Bomaye, which is like a parody of Shinsei Nakamura's knee attack, which I think he called the Bomaye, which he now calls the Kinshasa in WWE, but I think it was called the Bomaye in Japan. But this only gets a 2. And then he hits a double underhook face buster, was how I described it, and gets the pin on Doki. And then I noticed after the match that Will Ospreay was celebrating with Zack Sabre Jr.'s title, but then eventually gave it him back and said, basically gave it him and said, but I want it back tomorrow, kind of thing. So yeah, another fun multi-man match, lots of fun moments and spots. The matches are never bad. I just sort of like find it a little tougher to invest in these multi-man matches that, basically just filler so that they don't have to have a title match every show. Essentially, that's how it feels to me anyway. I don't know if I'm interpreting that wrong, but that's how it feels. Anyway, next match is just a straight-up tag team match. Still had similar feel of just people being chucked together to deal with current issues, but at least it was just a 2-on-2 tag match, which I'm a lot more used to seeing. It was Robbie Eagles and Ryu Lee, who's, I think, called Dragon Lee in Ring of Honor, against Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi. Takahashi beating the World Junior Heavyweight Champion, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. And I can't remember who they said was challenging for it, but Ryu Lee is the ROH TV champion, so there was another title involved as well. Not involved as in on the line, but it was there. This was a fun match. I enjoyed the Bushi Rooney. I feel like it had a bit more purpose than Booker T's old spinner Rooney. Where he just did it as like a taunt. Bushi more uses it as a way to get up to his feet after an impact move that leaves him on the floor, and to get up quickly and flashily, which is pretty nice. The finish came when Robbie Eagles beat Bushi by submission with what basically looked like an inverted or reverse figure 4. It was like a figure 4 kind of lock, but with the legs, like a figure 4 is. I don't know why I said that. But Bushi was on his front, and Bushi was kind of dragging towards the ropes, and then Robbie Eagles, shuffled on his bum backwards and dragged Bushi away from the ropes and then got the submission, which I thought was a nice touch that someone actually won the match by denying a rope break. I thought that was pretty good. A good tag match. What I wrote was it had a really fast start. It was really hectic at the start. It slowed down a little bit, not too much. I'm not saying it was a bad thing, but it settled into a pace in the middle, and then a bit of a frantic finish. And really good recipe for a tag match. Really good fun. As I said, Robbie Eagles picks up the win on Bushi. Next, we had the first really big feeling match to me. I might be wrong. The previous match might have been a bit more of a big deal than I was perceiving it as, but this one started to feel real big to me. It was Jay White with Gedo and Kenta against Sanada and Naito, and these are leading into 2 big singles matches, I believe, on the show on the 9th. The big finale to the New Beginning tour. I think it's in Osaka, otherwise I'm just saying the wrong thing over and over again. But yeah, it started really, really fun actually, because we started with like Kenta and Naito in the ring, and before that, on the entrance, I noticed Kenta was clapping along and mocking Naito's music, which I thought was a fun little touch. But then, yeah, they started with Kenta and Naito in the ring, and Kenta rolls out the ring, and just straight away, no real impact. Like, maybe a little bit of back and forth, but nothing major had happened. Rolls out, then just rolls in, and then rolls back out again, and, he's playing mind games with Naito. But then Naito does basically the same thing, only like a minute later, and it's just great fun. I'm so looking forward to their match. I love Kenta, I love Naito, they're 2 of my favourites in New Japan, and the 9th can't come quick enough for me, personally. Then they both tag out. I think... Who tagged out first? I can't remember, but whoever tagged out first, the one who came in, requested their opponent upcoming on the 9th, because Sanada and Jay White also have a singles match coming up. And I'm pretty sure that's on the 9th as well. And then the match starts properly and turns into a proper tag match. It breaks down into Bullet Club double teaming Sanada and building up to the hot tag to Naito, kind of standard American formula for a tag match. But then after the hot tag, it kind of breaks down into just Kenta and Naito having basically a mini match. And when I say mini match, they probably went a good sort of 5 or 6 minutes of just those two one-on-one, and it was a lot of fun. And then they both get the hot tag, and then we get like a mini match between Jay White and Sanada, which finishes when I can't remember what the move was, but Sanada had Jay White in some sort of move. Jay White kicked Sanada towards the ropes. Gato hit Sanada with a chair in the head, and then Jay White does a schoolboy roll up, grabs the tights, picks up the win by pin. Getting his revenge for, I think Sanada pinned him at New Year's Dash in a tag match. So I think it was the same tag match, in fact. So yeah, interesting match, a lot of fun, two of my favourites in it. Nothing bad to say about that one. Bullet Club pick up the win, which makes sense because I imagine Naito's going to retain the titles against Kenta, so it gives them momentum and credibility as a threat going into that. Still not sure who I'd pick between Jay White and Sanada, if I'm being perfectly honest, but we'll find out on the 9th, won't we? Okay, up next, we got a tag match. Now, this was a real interesting tag match. We got Taichi, who I'm very quickly becoming a fan of. Didn't know anything about before, maybe this year, but really quickly becoming a fan of. And he had Miho Abe, I think her surname is pronounced, with him at ringside. And Minoru Suzuki, who, if you're not a fan, what are you doing? What's wrong with... if you're watching Suzuki and you're not a fan, I don't know what you're doing. They were taking on Jon Moxley, and... Now, I know it's the first name, but I always struggle saying it. Kazuchika Okada? And obviously, everyone knows his surname. Kazuchika? I don't know. It's one of the two. I hear both. But what an interesting team. Moxley and Okada. Wow. Who thought they'd see that? It was a wild match, as you'd expect. Basically, everything Suzuki and Moxley is doing is just utterly chaotic and not even really anything to do with the match that they're in. They just sort of break away and do their own thing for the majority of the match. There was chair shots. There was a moment where Suzuki put a guardrail on Moxley and just threw like 2 chairs that were attached together until they hit it at the guardrail on Moxley. They were jousting with each other. They each had a guardrail at one point. It was just pretty crazy considering none of this was advertised as a no DQ match. I just want to point out, but that was pretty crazy. Okada ended up isolated once Suzuki had taken Moxley down outside. He returned to the ring and got double teamed a lot. But then we ended up with the hot tag. Moxley hit this weird Texas Cloverleaf / figure 4 kind of combo. The commentators even thought that Moxley had kind of fallen at first, lost his balance, but he deliberately laid back, so he'd got set up for the Texas Cloverleaf with the leg cross, but then instead of turning it over, just kind of fell back, so they ended up in like a figure 4 position. It was interesting. Suzuki and Moxley were biting each other at one point. Like, it was just getting pretty crazy. The finish came when Suzuki put Moxley in the rear naked choke and then turned it round once he thought he was pretty much out into a Gotch-style piledriver and pins Moxley. Pins the man he's going to challenge for the US title. Now, in my Western line of thinking with wrestling, that means Moxley's going to retain the title. And I think that holds true here just because, I don't know, in some weird way, I don't see New Japan putting the US title on Suzuki. I just don't see that. I don't know why. I can't really put my finger on the exact explanation of why, but I just don't see it. So I think that is foreshadowing, and to keep both men looking strong, one gets a win over the other, then the other one's going to get his win back. I think that's how it is. After the match, it was all breaking down. Taichi and Okada obviously have like a rivalry leading into night 2. So Taichi's choking Okada with like a microphone wire after the match for like quite a long time. Like, Okada's selling it like he's pretty much dead. But then makes his Superman come back, because of course he does, it's Okada. He avoids the shot with the iron glove, but then just as he's about to take control of like this post-match brawl, Suzuki and Moxley are gone, by the way. I don't know where they're fighting at this point, but they're gone. Zack Sabre Jr. comes out and slaps a rear naked choke on Okada, and I think they made reference to Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. being kind of a tag team. An on-again, off-again tag team. I think they mentioned that. So he puts the choke on Okada, then lets go so that Taichi can hit him with the iron glove gimmick that he's got. That looks like it's made out of tinfoil, but whatever. Ospreay then makes a save, obviously continuing his little thing with Zack Sabre Jr. leading into night 2. So that's basically ended up with, in the ring, the 2 main events for night 2. Dealing with each other in the main, in the ring. We've got Zack Sabre Jr. and Will Ospreay, and we've got Taichi and Okada. So, yeah. But Ospreay's save didn't exactly pay off. He ended up eating a Zack driver, which is essentially a Michinoku driver, but called a Zack driver because it's not Michinoku doing it, it's Zack. And then I think they called it the Black Mephisto was the move that Taichi did to Okada on the ramp, which looked pretty brutal. And then he was like choking him again, and I was like, wow, how long is this post-match attack going to go on for? It was like a whole match in itself. And then Taichi cut a little bit of a promo telling Okada, don't come tomorrow, no one will blame you. I'll just fight you another time or something. I don't know. Seemed weird to beat someone down, clearly to weaken them for your match, and then sort of try and get out of the match. But I know what he was doing. He was just tormenting him, mocking him, teasing him, whatever. So, yeah, all good fun. Really wild, fun tag team match with a wild, fun post-match brawl. It almost turned into a second tag team match kind of thing. There was that much of it. Then we had 2 singles matches to finish off the show. The first one was Evil against one of my favourites, Tomohiro Ishii. I really like Ishii. He just looks like a really, really, really angry hench, like chipmunk or something. He's just brilliant. He's like so stocky, especially in his top half, and just looks hard. The story apparently going into the match, from what I could grasp from the Japanese intro, which I was just sort of like, I'll try and pick up bits of this, but then the commentary kind of explained the story as well, is that Evil doesn't seem to be able to beat Ishii. I think he's like winless against him in however many encounters they've had, quite a few. It was a really fun, what I could have called a hoss match in my notes, just 2 big guys beating the hell out of each other, just hard hitting. There was loads of rule bending, rule breaking. The referee was just letting pretty much everything slide. There was a moment where Evil had a chair opened up and put over Ishii's head. Like when they run him into the turnbuckle in WWE, and it looks like a really harsh move, like that. But then instead of doing that, he just hits the chair with another chair with like a baseball swing and sends the chair flying off his head. That looked pretty fun. In the end, after a really good back and forth, really, really intense match, Ishii picks up the win again with a brainbuster and a pin. So Evil still can't beat Ishii. I assume eventually this goes somewhere. Like Japan like to do really long term, like story arcs where this will probably pay off in about 5 years or something. But yeah, if they're gonna keep coming back and clashing every so often, I'm not gonna complain. This was really good fun. And then the final match was for the Never Openweight Championship. Hiroki Goto, who just won the title from Kenta at Wrestle Kingdom, was defending against Shingo Takagi, who I think pinned him at New Year's Dash in a tag team match and then challenged him. So I think it was a tag team match involving Evil and Ishii as well, actually. I think both these matches came from that tag match. So this one, I wrote down another good singles match. I preferred the Evil Ishii match. I'm not sure if that's a bit of my bias towards Ishii, and I kind of like Evil as well, or if it was just a better match. I don't know, but I preferred it. But this still wasn't a bad match at all, by no stretch. What I found interesting though was Takagi won, which means that Goto made no successful defenses of the Openweight Championship. I mean, he's got nothing to worry about. He can just win it again at Wrestle Kingdom next year, seeing as when I was looking into a few things, like doing a little bit of research before the show, I noticed he's won the Never Openweight Championship at 3 out of the last 4 Wrestle Kingdoms, I believe it is, which is pretty crazy. So he can just win it next year in January, it's fine. But yeah, he called the move the Last of the Dragon, and there's been so much wrestling. I honestly can't remember what it looked like, but I remember thinking it was cool. What was it? Can't remember for the life of me what Last of the Dragon looked like, but maybe just Google it if you're not sure. Takagi, Last of the Dragon, and I'm sure there'll be a video somewhere of him doing it. And it was a pretty cool move. I cannot remember for the life of me what it was, but I remember thinking it looked pretty good. So yeah, Goto loses the title after no successful defenses, which surprised me a little bit because I always, as an outsider sort of occasionally glancing in, I've always had the impression that Japan really likes its long title reigns and not playing hot potato with titles. But here we are, the next major show and where he defends the title and he's already lost it, Goto. So I don't know what the plan is here. But then Takagi cuts the promo to end the show. They always end the shows with like the winner of the main event cutting a promo, which is why the finish of Wrestle Kingdom was so shocking that someone interrupted Naito, because it's just unheard of, undone for that to happen. So yeah, Takagi cut the post-show promo. The commentary were translating it, but I can't really rate the quality of a promo because I don't understand it, and I'd be rating it on the English translation by the commentator, which is always going to be the same caliber. So in my mind, everyone's the same caliber of promo in Japan. So I'm better off just not judging it because I don't know. Without knowing what they're saying, I can't really judge it, can I? And then he did a post-show press conference as well, where he put over Goto pretty good, actually. He sort of, when they were translating it, he said, that he felt that, and he not so much sure he won or survived that match, and he put over Goto pretty good in defeat, so that was a nice touch. Then we go into night 2. Which started off with a singles match. So night 2 was formatted slightly differently. I feel like there was more singles stuff going on and a few less of the massive tag team matches. There were still some massive tag team matches. Excuse the sound of me turning my page. But I'll have to do that occasionally. I wrote a lot of notes. And this started off with a singles match between a young lion, Yota Tsuji, who we had on night 1, I believe. Let me remind myself who he was. Was he the one who took the loss in the Nakanishi 6-man tag? Yeah, against the guy who beat him in it, Toa Hanare. It was a really good match. Again, Tsuji managed to look really strong without him winning, which is the idea with young lions. And I did get the impression that New Japan seemed to think quite highly of both of these guys. They seemed to... I mean, Toa Hanare, I think, said something after the match about being done fighting all these young lions. He wants to move up and have a proper challenge, if you like. But he'd certainly got a bit of a challenge out of Tsuji. And I just, when you just get the impression that management would be high on some wrestlers. Yeah, I got the feeling from both of these. He gets the win again with the rock bottom, similar to the finish of the 6-man tag the previous night, does Hanare. Oh, yeah, and he said he was done with the Young Lions, and he wanted to have a go at Takagi, Shingo Takagi, the new Never Openweight champion. Now, I'm pretty sure Japan doesn't generally do, rematch clauses, so it sounds like Takagi's moving straight on from Goto, possibly to a program with Hanare, which I'd be all for. I quite like Hanare, actually. Quite enjoyed his couple of matches this weekend. So, yeah, Hanare picking up the obvious win, but still, Tsuji made him work for it. Both look good. As they should do, well done match. Next we had a 6-man tag, again featuring Nakanishi on his little retirement tour. This time, it was interesting, he was teaming with Tenzan again, but also with Tiger Mask, and they were taking on Tiger Mask's protege, Yuya Uemura, the young lion, who was teaming with him on night 1, and then Honma and Maccabi again, who were teaming again. So it was like the same 2-on-2, but instead of also having Toa Hanare and Tsuji in there, you now had Tiger Mask and Uemura, but on opposite sides. And the story going in that the commentators filled us in on was apparently Tiger Mask was criticising Uemura in his press conference, because everyone kind of does a little press conference after each show. And that's kind of how they built. So it's not on the show, it's like a separate show of its own. And I know they all go up on YouTube because I'm subscribed to New Japan. I don't watch a lot of them because, again, unless it's got a translation over it, there's not that much point, but I've never really checked, if I'm honest. But apparently he was criticising him in the press conference for not being aggressive enough going after Bullet Club, who, after they picked up the win, being too easy to hold back, and he needs to see more fire out of him. So apparently the plan is to get more fire out of him by fighting him. So the match started off with Tiger Mask and Uemura in the ring, but Uemura was straight away just no, give me Nakanishi, I want to fight him, kind of thing, which... bold move for a young lion to challenge a legend like that. So Nakanishi gets in, and Uemura quickly regretted it. It was a good 6-man tag, lots of back and forth. There was another triple submission spot. I don't know if that's like a Nakanishi special or something, but it's happened in both of his matches. This time he had the torture rack on whoever it was. We had an anaconda device, and then we had an abdominal stretch. I believe that was probably Tiger Mask to Uemura, and the other two are the same as night 1. Anyway, the match finishes with Tiger Mask pinning Uemura with the Tiger Suplex, which is like a German suplex, but he's hooked the arms in like an underhook behind the back, and tucked his arms through, and then suplexed them over. So yeah. The right way to do that, I suppose, is to have the what they call the mentor. That's the word I was after, going over the protege like that. So yeah, that story's going to continue. I was impressed with how many of the young lions actually have kind of like a bit of a story going. I always imagined they were just there because Wrestle Kingdom's like their WrestleMania, like their biggest show. There wasn't a lot of involvement from young lions except like in their own little multi-man tag match at the start. So it was interesting to see them being used in more than just like a throwaway match and as tackling dummies for the main roster stars, when they need security, basically. It was interesting to see them actually being involved in stories, which I didn't realise happened. After the match, Nakanishi cut a bit of a promo just saying goodbye to Sapporo, as this would be his last match in the town. So, because obviously this is his last tour, and this is his last match on this tour in that town. So, that was that. Third match, another singles match, and another young lion with a bit of a story. This was Gabriel Kidd taking on El Fantasma, which, if you remember, I mentioned Fantasma attacked a young lion after his match on night one. This was that young lion. Now, interestingly, apparently Gabriel Kidd's actually a British wrestler, and I've not actually heard the name, but supposedly reasonably well known and respected and quite experienced, who then chose to go to New Japan's Young Lion system and sort of unlearn everything and relearn it. Because the Young Lions, they have to just wear like plain black trunks. That's the word. I can't think of the word for them. And they're restricted with what sort of moves they're allowed to use. While the Young Lion, they just have to stick to, the basics. The drop kicks and body slams and Boston Crabs is a big one. That's like their like submission of choice. So he sort of deliberately wound himself back to get a chance in New Japan, which is an interesting way of doing things, but can't blame him. It's a big deal being in New Japan. So apparently he faced ELP, El Fantasma, 2 years ago to the day in England in a match. So they had a little bit of background, these two. ELP's fantastic. Like, not only is a great character work at getting the crowd riled up and being a heel, but he just did this spot where he got like the old school thing that Undertaker does, the arm lock, and then got up on the top rope to walk, but then he sort of walks across, but so casually across the top rope, like he was walking on flat land. It was ridiculous. Like, there was no sense that he was trying to balance at all. And then he walks all the way across to the next corner and then does some fancy stuff in the corner and ends up hitting a move. Or I can't even remember how he finished it. I was just so mind blown by him just marching across the top rope like it was solid ground. Pretty crazy. He ended up winning with like a really impressive splash off the top rope. This match, ELP sort of went and showed a bit more of his athleticism rather than his usual shtick, which is to fake the athleticism, like go for the athleticism, then fake out the crowd and not do it to get heel heat. So yeah, there was a lot of really impressive moments. Again, Kid came out of this looking pretty good, but this was always Phantasmo's match to win, which he did. Then after the match, he hit Kid with what the commentators called CR2, which I don't know what that's meant to stand for, but it was basically like a double underhook, like a pedigree position, but then he'd like pick him up into like almost a power driver, but then slam him back down face first, like the end of it. Was just like a high angle pedigree almost, like lift him up but then slam him back down into a pedigree. Looked pretty good. Not sure if that means this story's still going somewhere. Otherwise, why do the post-match attack? I don't know. Probably just heat. Up next, we had a 6-man tag match. It was Tomohiro Ishii, Robbie Eagles, and Hiroki Goto against Bushi, Evil, and Shingo Takagi. Which, as well as this being a preview of the Never Openweight 6-man tag title match that's coming up at some point. I think they said on Thursday. I'm not sure where they are on Thursday, but yeah, that's coming up. So this was a non-title exact replica of that match in terms of the guys involved. But it also had a lot of issues, in it. You've already seen Ishii and Evil on the last night, so they had a bit of a thing going. Then we've got Robbie Eagles, who made Bushi tap out on night one. And then we've got Takagi, who took the Never Openweight singles title off Goto, making him a double Never Openweight champion. So there was all these individual issues, but also the group issue, which was really interesting, really good, and it told the story quite well as the match progressed. It was a good match. The same finish as night one, with Eagles making Bushi submit with the same hold again after dragging him away from the ropes. But this had the interesting twist where it seemed like Evil and Takagi were sort of too preoccupied with their respective rivals, with Tomohiro Ishii and Hiroki Goto respectively, to really help Bushi out the submission. Like, they were all in the ring, but they were so focused on fighting each other that no one broke up the submission. And then when everyone kind of fell out the ring, Bushi realised he had no option but to tap. and advantage challengers, which, again, in my mentality, automatically means the champions are retaining in the title match, but I realise Japan probably doesn't book things the same as WWE, the same formulaic, predictable kind of way that WWE does. So, yeah, good 6-man tag, good little story at the end. I don't know if that'll lead to, like, anyone breaking off, out of... I think they're all in Los Ingobernables. So I don't know if it'll lead to anyone leaving or being kicked out, or if it's just like a little bit of a story beat. Not everything has to lead to a feud at the end of the day, it can just be story beats. And then they get back on the same page to retain the titles, and it's just like its own little self-contained story. Either way, looking forward to seeing what they do. Okay, up next, we had a lovely 6-man tag with a wild brawl just taking place at the same time. Obviously, this was an 8-man tag, but it had Suzuki and Jon Moxley in, and they barely participated in the match. They were just beating the hell out of each other for most of it. But it was Suzuki, El Desperado, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, who I think is Desperado's regular tag partner, and Doki against Yosho and Taguchi. So basically, a similar situation to previous night, except you had Jon Moxley in there with Yosho and Taguchi, which was a really interesting contrast. The match started with Suzuki running up into the crowd to take on Moxley as he was making his entrance. Like before he even got to the ring, Suzuki's going after him. So this is what I mean by it was basically a 6-man tag with those two just brawling at the same time. At one point, there was a fun little spot where Taguchi was left 3-on-1, Yo and Sho got taken out, and then the other 3 members of Suzuki Gun were in the ring. Taguchi was looking at Suzuki and Moxley brawling, and was like, Moxley, come and help me, kind of thing, and then turned around and realised there was 3 of them, and he's kind of a comedic character, so he sold it pretty well. I had a bit of a laugh at that. As part of that 3-on-1 attack, he suffered a rough-looking springboard stomp by Doki. Like, instead of the usual sort of nice clean contact and kind of bounce off and it looks fairly safe, he kind of slid along him because he had the angle. I think he had the distance wrong. Like, Taguchi was probably just too far away, so Doki had to proper stretch to him, and it looked like he just carved out all his stomach muscles with his heels and just left him on the mat. It looked rough. At one point, we did get Moxley and Suzuki as the only 2 in the ring, and then Taguchi comes in, and they both just looked at him and booted him. He's Moxley's tag partner, but they just booted him out of the way so they could carry on fighting. Like, it was really fun. Taguchi actually ended up picking up the win. He hit the Bum AA, the rip-off Bomb AA, but with his butt instead of his knee, and then locked in the ankle lock on Doki. And interestingly, when it looked like Doki was going to wriggle free, he dropped an elbow onto the leg kind of thing and then reapplied, which I thought was an interesting take on it, to sort of re-weaken the leg to reapply the hold. Pretty nice. And then Doki ended up submitting. Moxley and Suzuki brawled to the back, predictably. Just brawled for the entire duration of this match. It was great. And then Taguchi was just celebrating with Yo and Sho, who were the junior heavyweight tag team champions, and he just had Moxley's US title. He was just holding it up. I'm like, I know he's going to give it him back when he goes backstage, but I wouldn't be surprised if Moxley holds that one against him at some point. Yeah, so that was interesting. And like I say, I wrote at the end, 6-man tag with a brawl at the same time. That's all it really was. It wasn't an 8-man tag at all. But it was good fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying all this Suzuki and Moxley stuff. I think it's great. It's just building really well. It's not even building. It's just exploded, and it's just staying exploded. There's no build. It's not started off quiet and built up. It's just all out all the time, and it's fantastic. Up next, we had a 6-man tag, the final one of the weekend. This was Taiji Ishimori, Jay White, and Kenta from Bullet Club. Jay White had Gedo with him, obviously, against Sanada, Tetsuya Naito, and Hiromu Takahashi, easy for me to say, of Los Ingobernables de Japón. Bullet Club jumped the bell, doing their heel thing. They attacked Takahashi from behind as Los Ingobernables were still getting into the ring. And it was another chaotic start to a match. They like starting off the multi-man tags with just utter carnage in Japan at the moment, it seems, because this was another one. I wrote down it's a really fun 6-man tag. It finished. It's sort of too much to go through, and do it justice. But basically, you have Jay White and Sanada have an issue. You obviously have Kenta and Naito have their issue. And then, while Ishimori and Takahashi don't have a direct issue, they're the junior heavyweights in the match, so they kind of paired off for the majority. And with Takahashi being the junior heavyweight champion, Ishimori kind of by default has an issue with him because he has the title that he wants. So it works. But in the end, Sanada actually ended up beating Ishimori by submission with Skull End, which I think is the first time I've actually seen it fully locked on successfully. They always seem to fight out of it in the standing stage. It's like a dragon sleeper, but then he rocks back and applies leg scissors as well. Looks pretty good. And he picked up the win with that. And then after the match, we had dual stare downs. We had Naito daring Kenta to take his titles. Well, we actually had Naito do his trademark sort of lying down on the ground pose, and then Kenta kind of slides into the ring and goes face to face with him, which was pretty cool. But then you had Kenta slid back out, and you had Naito kind of putting both titles right in front of him on the apron and being like, "Go on, take him, I dare you." And at the same time, you also had Sanada daring Jay White to do something, which obviously neither Bullet Club did. They just left eventually, but pretty fun. Then finish off with 2 singles matches. The first one of which I definitely preferred. It was I wrote excellent. That's the word for it. Technical match with sprinkles of Ospreay's magic. That's what I wrote because I thought I don't know how else to explain this. Like it was Ospreay was going hold for hold, move for move with Zack Sabre, but every so often he'd just do something ridiculous. Like he does. It was great fun. Zack Sabre Jr. actually wins by stoppage with, and I just left blank after with because I just don't know what that move was. It's like an octopus stretch, but then he turned it into like a choke with his legs at the same time and like a armbar. If you've seen a Zack Sabre Jr. match, you know what I'm on about. He just mangles you and stretches you. But he ended up with like a choke on, a really convincing looking choke actually with his legs. And then Ospreay passes out instead of tapping out, so the referee stops it. So that was how it finished. Really good match. Really enjoyed it. Hope they do it again soon because that was great fun. And then we finished off with the main event, which... Oh, that was for the RevPro British Heavyweight Championship, by the way. The main event wasn't for any title, but it was Okada, so of course he was in the main event. If it's an Okada singles match, it's the main event. And he was taking on Taichi, who once again had Miho Abe with him at ringside. And this was really fun. This was kind of the match that, I said in part 1, Taichi's really growing on me. This was kind of the match that sort of tipped him over for me, where I'd say now... Yeah, I like it. I'm kind of a fan. I have an opinion of this one now. Like, because I'm still getting used to it. I don't have a strong opinion either way on a lot of guys. They're just kind of people that have been in a lot of multi-man matches that I've seen. But when someone goes this, not this long, or this hard, but just has this level of singles match with Okada, which I know Okada's not exactly, a dead weight that you have to lug around the ring. He's obviously putting people on the map with these singles matches, but if you can hold your own in terms of match quality with Okada, then you got my vote. So yeah, and I'm not even a huge Okada fan. I can acknowledge how good he is without actually being a massive fan. But Taichi more than held his own in this match. There was a couple of attempts to use his little iron fist thing. There was a lot of cheating attempts basically in this. It was all about Okada overcoming the odds. It was Okada John Cena-ing New Japan basically. At one point Okada got hold of the glove, but then gave it to Red Shoes, who went to dispose of it. But then Kanemaru was on Japanese commentary, so obviously I couldn't hear him, but because I was watching English commentary. But he was at the commentary desk, so he gets up and goes and argues with Red Shoes about removing the iron glove from the match. And while they're arguing, Taichi gets Okada in the back of the neck with a chair, which is what he injured the night before with the attack after the match, and what a lot of the focus of the match was for him was attacking Okada's neck. So hit him in the back of the neck with a chair, and then hit him on the head with the flat side, which the middle of the chair flew out. It was the most obviously rigged chair ever, but it was a good visual, so whatever. And then he hits his axe bomber, like, it's basically just a clothesline, but looks pretty intense. But only gets a 2, obviously. Okada kicks out. But Okada withstands everything, and then finishes it with a spinning tombstone and a rainmaker for the pin. It's a good match. I preferred, again, both nights I preferred the semi-main to the main. But there's no denying the main events were good matches. Like, I just personally preferred both the semi-main events personally. I feel like watching Okada is just like watching John Cena in 2010-11, but having better matches. Like, it's really rare for him to lose, especially clean. He overcomes all the odds and clean and wins, and Okada wins, lol, and I think that's what puts me off him. There's no denying he has great matches, but I think I've just been disenchanted with that kind of character, that kind of unbeatable babyface through years of being subjected to WWE's idea of it, I think I automatically just have a wall up against it. And I don't even mind John Cena these days, but 10 years ago, John Cena was borderline unbearable. So, that's the sort of time period I'm talking about. And yeah, I think I just automatically have an issue with that. I think that's why I can't warm up to Okada as much as most people seem to. The fans were super behind Taichi in this match, though, by the end. Like, they were really, really supporting him, to the point where Okada kind of started his post-match promo, his show-ending promo, kind of mocking them a bit, trying to lead a Taichi chant. But then he brought his babyface back and thanked them all for coming and announced that they'd be back in Hokkaido, which is where Sapporo is. It's like Hokkaido's the state and Sapporo's the city within the state kind of thing. So they might be somewhere else in Hokkaido, but it's probably still achievable for those fans. It's probably because Japan's quite a bit smaller than America, so the states aren't as big either, so it's probably travelable if they so wish. So he announced that they're back in July in Hokkaido, and then finished the show. I think there was a post-match press conference. I honestly didn't pay a lot of attention to what Okada said in that. I'd watched a lot of wrestling. I was kind of like, right, I've invested enough now. I was tired and just wanted to get the review recorded. So, overall, I really enjoyed both shows. I think both semi-mains were better than the main events. I think a lot of the multi-man tags were really good. I still have to get used to how many of them there are and how much of a mainstay they are in how New Japan does things. I love the Kenta Naito story. I love the Suzuki Moxley story almost as much. They're my top two things at the moment in Japan. They're my two favourites in terms of stories that are ongoing. But yeah, really good. And Taichi was a real revelation for me on this show. I feel like I really sort of figured out Taichi and started to enjoy him during the show. So leave me your thoughts in the comments. What you enjoyed, what you didn't like, who you don't like, what stories you're enjoying, all that good stuff. How long you've been watching and what's changed since you started watching in terms of what you enjoy and what you think about the product. Anything at all, let me know in the comments. Which nights of the tour are you looking forward to? Because I believe they're all going on New Japan World, which I don't think I'm going to do reviews of all of them. I think I'm starting to view these tour dates as Raw and SmackDown, and then the one on the 9th is the pay-per-view at the end kind of thing, so that'll be the one I do the review on. But yeah, let me know what you're looking forward to. Leave a like as well if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new here, and share with your friends if you think they would enjoy. Also, check out the description for my social media, my other channels, my Patreon. Just $1 per calendar month would be greatly appreciated. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Ebeza, you've been amazing, and I'll see you next time.